In this video, we aim to point out importance for content teachers to notice the language patterns of different academic subjects. Different subject areas such as math, history, and science have different types of communication, and each type of communication in each subject area uses vocabulary, grammar, and discourse patterns in different ways. In other words, each different academic subject has different ways of using language to establish knowledge, and learning the language of a new subject is a part of the learning of that subject. When students come to school to develop their knowledge in multiple content areas, they need to be able to use language effectively in order to participate in the learning process. In this sense, the various language patterns in different content areas can pose linguistic demands and challenges to students. Students are facing not only conceptual challenges of different academic subjects, but also linguistic challenges, because although students are already familiar with the everyday language that they use to establish their knowledge of the world, they need to move from this everyday informal ways of knowledge construction to the technical and scientific ways that are necessary for academic learning in all subjects. In the following discussion, we will first talk about the common language patterns in two content areas, mathematics and academic writing, to highlight the differences in which content areas pattern language, through which we hope to demonstrate how these different language patterns can bring linguistic challenges to students. We hope to highlight that when it comes to the teaching and learning of academic subjects, it's important to take the linguistic aspect into account. We will then discuss some strategies that content teachers can use to develop their students' ability to understand and use these language patterns, and to support their students to communicate concepts and participate in various discourse patterns. First, we're going to take the content area of mathematics as an example. We want to first point out the concept of mathematical register. A researcher named Halliday defined register as a set of meaning that is appropriate to a particular function of language, together with the words and structures which express these meanings. In this sense, the mathematical register can be viewed as meanings that belong to the language of mathematics, or the meanings that belong to the mathematical use of natural language. In his discussion of the mathematical register, Halliday talks about the linguistic challenges of mathematics learning that, although the everyday ways of doing mathematics like counting and measuring make use of everyday language, when students are developing their mathematical knowledge in schools, they need to use language in new ways to serve new functions. The way linguistic structures are used in mathematics can be different from the way language is typically used in everyday life, and therefore these linguistic structures may bring challenges to many students. To provide a specific picture of the linguistic challenges in mathematics learning, we're going to talk about some features and some language patterns of the mathematics register. To give an example, multiple semiotic systems are used in mathematics to construct knowledge. These semiotic systems include not only oral and written language, but also symbols, graphs, and diagrams. Features such as order, position, and relative size are also involved in mathematics. We can imagine that in a math question like this, a man on a cliff looking down at a river and wanting to calculate the width of the river with a rope and a device that measures angles. The language provides the contextual information. The mathematical symbolism describes the relationship patterns between the entities, and the diagram that comes with this question provides the connection between the described situation, which is the cliff and the river, and the mathematical process involved in this question. When solving this question, the written language, the mathematical symbols, the visual representation, and the oral language used in the classroom will all work together to construct the meaning. In this circumstance, students need to be able to realize the meanings expressed by the interaction of these multiple semiotic systems. So mathematics learning is not only about manipulating the symbols, but also about the understanding of how different semiotic systems interact to make meaning. A highly technical subject like mathematics has characteristic patterns of vocabulary and language, vocabulary and grammar. Technical vocabulary includes not only mathematical words like sum and fraction, but also everyday words that have specific meanings in mathematics like product and borrow. It's important for students to grasp the mathematical meaning of these words to succeed in their learning. However, having only the knowledge of vocabulary is not sufficient. Students also need to know the language patterns associated with this vocabulary. If a student knows the general meaning of more, less, and as many as, he may use the everyday language to make this mathematical concept like, if Tina has twice as much money as George, then George has twice as less than Tina. The use of this common everyday grammatical structure indicates the blur of the distinction between the concepts of difference and the concepts of proportional comparison. This example demonstrates the importance of making students learn the technical language of mathematics, because if students only use everyday language to establish mathematical concepts, the relationships they interpret may be technically incorrect. There also exist other linguistic challenges in the content area of mathematics, such as the difference in point of view can result in the blur between the language about categories and the language about properties, and the precise and technical meaning of conjunctions that may be used in different ways in everyday language. However, due to the time issue, we cannot talk about them in detail. If you are interested, please refer to this article for more information. Focusing on language features through which mathematics is constructed can be a strategy to support the learning of students. Therefore, to deal with linguistic challenges, students need to recognize that the mathematics register draws on a range of modalities, and the meaning is established from the interaction among these multi-semiotic resources. Students also need to realize the characteristic patterns of vocabulary and grammatical constructions. The development of the mathematics register has to build from oral language that moves from the everyday to the technical. The current research suggests that teachers can explicitly focus students' attention on the linguistic features of mathematics. Teachers can use oral language to unpack and explain the meanings of mathematics symbolism, and in this process, help students to see the connection of different semiotic resources. Also, it is found that students are more likely to hesitate or appear less capable when they're asked to refer to certain concepts and principles. In this case, teachers can give explicit instruction to make students realize and use technical language rather than informal everyday language when they are defining and explaining concepts. Teachers should also provide opportunities in which students can use the mathematics register in interactive activities to establish meaningful discourse about mathematics, and revising is a technique for interaction. In this example, the revising supports students' participation by acknowledging the students' contribution and by reformulating the students' contribution in a way that is closer to the standard of mathematics register. Beyond this, current research provides other suggestions for teachers as well. And due to the time issue, we cannot address them here. If you're interested, again, please refer to this article for more information. And now we are going to use another content area as an example.
So the second content area we chose to discuss here is academic writing. Specifically, the author talks about 3 discourse types in academic writing: the vocabulary, grammar of academic prose, and lexicogrammatical sequences. Before I discuss these 3 discourses in detail, I want to stress 2 areas teachers should pay attention to. The first one is native speaker and L2, intuitive judgment. They may not be reliable sources in providing appropriate vocab and grammar in academic writing. The second one is that the vocabulary in a particular sub-area of academic study is limited. These words are not frequent and not broadly used in other academic fields. For the vocabulary in academic writing, one question people may ask is, what is the difference compared to non-academic writing vocabulary? This difference is often ignored by learners. They have some challenges in this domain. One of the challenges they have is how they can move from vocabulary items in everyday speaking and writing to academic English. For example, Words such as paradigm and notwithstanding are not frequent in everyday conversation, but they often appear in academic writing. The second challenge is that the knowledge needed for the use of words in writing, speaking, listening, and reading are not the same. For example, learners can use a word in writing by knowing its meaning and how to spell it, but they cannot use the same word in speaking if they do not know its pronunciation. And next, I will talk about the grammar of academic prose. First, I want to talk about what characterizes academic prose in terms of grammatical features. These include long completed noun phrases, big words, different words, and frequent use of passive voice, and so on. It is noun-heavy, but it does not mean such writing only consists of nouns. Rather, it is made up of different grammatical features all functioning together. Finally, lexical grammatical sequences. Lists a set of words in fixed sequences, and learners would not remember them word by word. They lie at the boundary between grammar and vocabulary. The phrases such as a result of, it is possible to, are both lexical grammatical sequences. These word sets are often repeated and are used as a structure in writing. My writing teachers might call them as part of the writing templates. They are also the symbols of fluent writing. Teachers and readers in academia would feel the writing with this set of words as high quality ones. However, there's a high possibility that learners may not recognize this important set of words because there is this emphasis in teaching to see vocabulary as individual words, but not the set of words. It is also important to discuss how teachers can support learners based on the characteristics of these three discourses. For the vocabulary aspect, when deciding which vocabulary should be selected to teach, teachers can resort to the academic word list. AWL is a list of words that appear frequently in academic contexts. By learning words mainly from AWL, learners can familiarize more words that appear in texts and find it easier to read and write, thereby being effective academic writers. Speaking of reading, academic writing is closely linked to the reading of academic texts. In the process of academic writing, learners read for ideas, data, and language that can be used in the written product. Reading also provides learners with language development opportunities. This is why teachers should include whole text reading activity in the writing class. In this way, learners can first recognize and practice these words, and finally can use them in their own writing. From the perspective of grammar, the teaching point would not be the difference between past tense and present perfect. Instead, teachers should help learners understand the structure of academic prose. That is, how different grammatical items work and function together. In terms of lexical grammatical sequences, teachers should scaffold learners to help them notice these phrases. Teachers should help learners learn phrases as whole sets, but not only individual word level. Teachers should also create activities for learners to produce and experiment with such sets in their own writing. At the end of this video, we want to acknowledge that the contents of this video come from the following two articles. If you are interested, you can refer to these two articles for more details. That's all of our presentation. Thanks for watching.